2022 deadline just around the corner, we break down the Trump's so-called Liberation Day tariffs, which have sent shockwaves through the world. Are we on the brink of an all-out trade war? And what does this mean for your wallet? Then we turn to India and China's delicate dance. Xi Jinping is calling for a Dragon-Elephant Tango, but can India really trust Beijing after years of border clashes and economic tensions? Over in Ukraine, the political scene is heating up. Rumors are swirling that President Zelensky might call a snap election. But with war still raging, is this a strategic move or a desperate gamble? And speaking of political gambles, Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan is back in the headlines, this time not for his corruption conviction, but for a Nobel Peace Prize nomination. Can you really be jailed for misusing power and still be seen as a champion of democracy? We will unpack this irony, and finally we expose the dark side of blind faith. Self-styled preacher Baljinder Singh, once hailed as a miracle worker, has been sentenced to life in prison for heinous crimes. All this is coming up on the show. Let's begin. Today's top story is about US President Donald Trump's reciprocal tariffs, a move that has global markets on edge. With the White House set to announce the new tariffs at 12:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time on Thursday, the world is bracing for its impact. Over the weekend, Trump made it very clear, no country is exempted. The tariffs will hit all countries, ending the speculation that some allies might get a free pass. This announcement has already sent ripple effect across the global trade markets. White House Press Secretary Caroline doubled down, saying, and I quote, "The president will be announcing a tariff plan that will roll back the unfair trade practices that have been ripping off our country for decades," unquote. But what does this mean for the economy? Let me tell you the opinion of experts. Experts are increasingly worried that we could be heading towards a stagflation, a dreaded economic condition where inflation and recession exist at the very same time. Now you see, this stagflation is a worst case scenario for the economists. It means that the prices keep rising, which is a signal of inflation, and the economic growth remains stagnant, which is a signal of recession. In addition to this, the unemployment stays at all-time high. It keeps on increasing. So why the situation is so tricky? Well, the unusual thing is that the usual tools to fix inflation or recession can make the other problem worse. For example, cutting interest rates can boost growth but worsen inflation. Then raising them can curb inflation but kill jobs. Experts fear that Trump's economic policies, including tariffs, mass firing of public sector employees, and shutting down government programs, are creating the perfect storm for the phenomena of stagflation. And the numbers don't really look good either. Yardani research raised the odds of stagflation hitting the United States this year from 35 to 45%. Goldman Sachs increased its recession risk estimate from 20 to 35%, and Moody's raised its recession forecast from 15 to 40%. Key warning signs include falling customer sentiment, stock market decline, and persistent inflation. As tariffs increase costs, companies will likely to pass the burdens on to the consumers, making everything more expensive. Wall Street is already feeling the heat. Major indices like S&P 500, Dow Jones, and Nasdaq have been seeing a sharp decline in anticipation of these tariffs. Investors are worried that higher costs for businesses will lead to lower corporate profits, sparking a broader sell-off in the stock markets across the world. Now, experts say that if a trade war was to escalate, markets could enter a prolonged period of volatility. Adding to the chaos is Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Yes, that's the actual name, DOGE. Musk has been aggressively cutting government jobs, with estimates suggesting around 1 million, I repeat, 1 million Americans could lose employment due to the direct firing of the shutdown of the government agencies, government programs. The impact is huge. The construction and agricultural industries, which rely heavily on the immigrant labor, are expected to take a big hit due to Trump's crackdown on immigration. The formula is simple. Less workforce equals to less production equals to higher prices equals to economic shutdown, economic slowdown. So how the world is responding to the whole situation? The European Union, EU, is already preparing to fight back. European Commission Chief made it very clear, and I quote, "We are open to negotiations, but we have a strong plan to retaliate if necessary." If Trump moved forward with the tariffs, the European Union is ready to hit back with countermeasures. The fear now is a full-blown global trade war. Countries like China, Canada, and the European Union are all watching very closely, and also we. If they retaliate, we could see a domino effect that shakes global markets. With Trump's tariffs set to be announced at 12:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time on Thursday, all eyes will be on how global markets react. Will the US economy withstand the pressure, or are we heading for a major downturn? Economists are already raising red flags, and the future of world economy don't really look good. Our second story today takes us to India and China, where Chinese President Xi Jinping is calling for a Dragon-Elephant Tango, a symbolic way of saying that two Asian giants should work together. But what does this actually mean? And is there any chance of real change happening? Well, on Tuesday, as India and China marked 75 years of diplomatic relations, Xi Jinping sent a message to Indian President Draupadi Murmu emphasizing the need for peaceful coexistence. Xi Jinping said he was ready to deepen communication and strengthen coordination on major global affairs. According to China's state-run news agency, he also highlighted the importance of border peace, something that has been a major point of contention in the recent years between two nations. Now, why is this significant? Let's rewind to 2020 when Chinese and Indian troops clashed in eastern Ladakh along the line of actual control LAC. The border standoff pushed India-China diplomatic ties to their lowest point since the 1962 war. The tensions remain unresolved, with China still occupying parts of Ladakh and claiming Indian territories like Arunachal Pradesh as their own. Despite this, Xi is talking about a new chapter in India-China relations. He urged both nations to look at their relationship from a long-term perspective and focus on mutual trust and common development. He also mentioned a multipolar world and greater democracy in international relations, well, phrases that often signal China's pushback against Western dominance, particularly the influence of the United States of America, especially under the leadership of President Donald Trump. So here's the tricky thing. While Xi Jinping speaks of expanding ties, China continues to challenge India's sovereignty. Beijing still refuses to acknowledge parts of Indian territories, has refused and frequently renamed places in Arunachal Pradesh, and even disputes areas in Sikkim. The Indian government has repeatedly pushed back, calling all these claims by Chinese government as unacceptable. Meanwhile, trade remains a key factor in this complex relationship between India and China. In the fiscal year 2023-24, China overtook United States as India's largest trading partner, with bilateral trade reaching some 118.4 billion US dollars. However, there is a massive trade imbalance. India's exports to China were just $8.5 billion, while imports stood at 50.4 billion, leaving a 41.9 billion trade deficit. Well, India has also been considering easing certain restrictions on Chinese imports and investments, possibly a strategic counterweight to shifting relations with the United States of America. Increasingly, this diplomatic message comes just ahead of Trump's Liberation Day tariffs, a major move that could shake the global trade. Some experts, some analysts believe that China is trying to mend regional ties as it braces for potential economic turbulence from the United States' trade policies. A stable relationship with China could help India counterbalance pressure from Washington and vice versa. So the question is, what's next? While Xi's word sounds very positive, India must remain cautious. Past experience shows that diplomatic niceties don't always translate into real change for the ground. As the world watches, the question remains, will this Dragon-Elephant Tango lead to genuine cooperation, or is it just another diplomatic dance? Our third story today takes us to Ukraine, where election rumors are once again swirling as Russian airstrikes continue to batter Ukrainian cities almost every single day. The idea of holding elections might seem far-fetched, yet in the streets and the offices of Kiev, discussions about the possibility of Ukraine going to polls are growing louder. Election speculations have come and gone throughout the 3 years of Russia's full scale invasion. Each time, these rumors have been dismissed by the government, by the opposition, and by the public alike, with the consensus being that unity against Russian aggression must come first. The presidential elections that were due in 2024 was suspended under martial law, which has been in effect since Russia's invasion of 2022. However, that has not stopped the Kremlin from branding President Volodymyr Zelensky, and I quote, as an illegitimate leader and using new elections as a condition for the ceasefire, a talking point that has even been echoed by the United States President Donald Trump. Now, speculation is rising again as ceasefire negotiations progress. Some sources have suggested that the elections in Ukraine could be held this year in summer. Ukraine's former commander in chief and now the ambassador to London has been named as the possible challenger to Vladimir Zelensky. Though he has publicly denied having any political ambition, his need to address these rumors itself is telling the whole story. Then the head of Ukraine's Central Election Commission has also commented on the situation, stating that legal changes would be necessary before any election could take place. Under current law, parliamentary elections must be held 60 days after the lifting of martial law and presidential elections within the 90 days. However, logistical challenges posed by the war would require further adjustments to these rules, to these timelines. Reports from The Economists claimed that Zelensky recently held a meeting to discuss election preparations and instructed his team to prepare for a vote once the United States has secured a ceasefire deal with Russia, possibly by the Easter. Ukrainian government officials have denied these claims, stating that peace remains the priority and that there is a little hope of the war ending so soon. But despite these denials, many believe an election might still be on the horizon, on the radar. Well, you see, there are several reasons for this speculation. First, Zelensky's approval ratings have slightly improved since his recent confrontations with President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. A March poll by the Kiev International Institute of Sociology, that is KIIS, showed his trust rating has risen to 69%, prompting some analysts to suggest that he may see this as the best moment to secure a second term before political divisions emerge post-war. Winning another term could also strengthen Zelensky's position in peace talks, countering Russia's claim that Ukraine needs new leadership. Additionally, with martial law set for renewal in early May, Zelensky could announce its expiration and schedule elections for later in this summer. Adding to this intrigue, US officials seem convinced that elections will happen. Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff stated on a podcast that Ukraine has already agreed to hold elections. If true, Zelensky could frame his external pressure as a reason to proceed, arguing that elections are necessary to maintain Western support. However, significant challenges remain. What are they? Millions of Ukrainians are displaced, either abroad, in occupied territories, or on the front lines. Some have suggested using the DIA app, a digital platform that holds Ukrainian citizens' key document to facilitate voting remotely. While this would make voting more accessible, it would require legislative approvals, and many fear the app could be vulnerable to many cyber attacks or manipulations, maybe by the Russians. Even if DIA were adopted, verifying voter eligibility remains a major logistical hurdle. Moreover, lifting martial law, even temporarily, could lead to unintended consequences, which includes a mass exodus of soldiers from the front lines, just as Russia prepares its next offensive, next attack. There are also concerns that elections could provide Russia with new opportunities to interfere within the Ukraine's politics, whether through cyber tactics, as I mentioned earlier, or disinformation campaigns, or even direct attack on polling stations. Some argue that holding elections at this stage would be conceding to Russia's narrative. What is the narrative? That Zelensky's leadership is illegitimate simply because elections were postponed. Ultimately, the biggest obstacle to elections may be the public opinion. The same KIIS poll found that 78% of Ukrainians are against holding election even after a full settlement of the war. With so many hurdles and risks involved, the question remains, will Ukraine actually hold elections this summer? Or is this just another political rumor? Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan may be behind bars, but that hasn't stopped him from making headlines, this time for being nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize yet again. Yes, you heard that right. While he currently enjoys the hospitality of Pakistan's prison system, an advocacy group has decided that his efforts towards human rights and democracy in Pakistan deserves global recognition. If nothing else, it's a proof that in the world of international awards, irony is alive and well. The nomination came from a Norwegian political party which proudly announced on their social media that Khan has been put forward in the alliance with someone who actually has the right to nominate. The Nobel Peace Prize, of course, is no stranger to surprising choices. After all, it has previously been awarded to people ranging from celebrated peacemakers to, well, the people who own drones and missiles. For those keeping score, this isn't Khan's first brush with Nobel glory. Back in 2019, he was nominated for his first supposed role in de-escalation of tensions with India after the Balakot airstrike. The nomination came after he made the grand gesture of returning Indian Air Force pilot Wing Commander Abhinandan, a move hailed as a sign of statesmanship. Though critics argue that when you kidnap someone and then let them go, you don't really qualify for sainthood. But let's fast forward to today. Khan, the founder of Pakistan's main opposition party, that is PTI, has been behind bars since August 2023. In January, he was sentenced to 14 years in prison on corruption charges. This was just one of the four major cases against him. Earlier convictions included charges related to selling state gifts, leaking state secrets, and even unlawful marriages. Oh dear. But why a few legal hiccups stand in the way of a Nobel Peace Prize for Khan? Meanwhile, Khan himself has dismissed all allegations, calling them politically motivated. His supporters see him as a victim of a rigged system, while his critics argue that his downfall was a product of his own political miscalculations, mistakes, and run-ins with Pakistan's powerful military establishment. So what happens next? Well, anyone can be nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize as long as the right people vouch for them. Every year, the Norwegian Nobel Committee receives hundreds of nominations and then follows an 8-month process, a procedure to select a winner. That means, at least for now, Khan can add, and I quote, Nobel nominee to his list of titles right alongside prison inmate and former cricket legend. Will he win? Unlikely. But one thing is certain, in Pakistan, where politics often feels like a high-stakes reality show, the latest twists in the Imran Khan saga has ensured that the drama isn't ending anytime soon. Let me ask you this. When will you wake up? When are you going to realize that only we can solve our problems, not some random self-styled godman promising miracles? An Indian court has sentenced Baljinder Singh, a self-proclaimed Christian preacher, to life imprisonment for raping a woman in 2018. The women alleged that Singh not only assaulted her but also recorded this heinous crime to blackmail her later. This case is not just about one man's crime. It is about an entire system that allows such men to thrive, preying on the poor, the desperate, and the uneducated. Singh rose to fame through his fiery evangelist-style preaching, his supposed ability to heal people by merely placing his hands on them attracted millions and millions of followers. His Church of Glory and Wisdom, one of the largest private churches in Punjab, boasts a presence in countries like the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada. His social media following is massive, with over 3 million YouTube subscribers, and yet, behind this glamour of miraculous healing and promise of wealth, there was a deeply sinister reality, one that too many people ignored. You see, for years, Singh convinced his followers that he was a man of God, someone who could cure illnesses, bring prosperity, and change their lives for good. His grand sermons, his sharp suits, his electrifying performances, all designed to create the illusion of divine power. Well, people often, at their most vulnerable moments, turn to him with hope, only to be exploited. Singh's sentences could serve as a wake-up call. His victims' lawyers, Anil Sagar, called it as an exemplary punishment. This isn't the first time that Singh has been accused of such crimes. In February, a former disciple accused him of sexual assault, prompting another police investigation. Soon after, yet another woman came forward with allegations of assault following a prayer session. Despite these multiple accusations, Singh and his supporters dismissed them as a conspiracy and attacks by rival pastors. How convenient, isn't it? His financial dealings have also come under scrutiny. In January last year, some of his churches were investigated by India's income tax department. His entire empire is built on the donations of people who believe in him, people who hope that he will bring the prosperity and healing. Instead, what he did, he took advantage of them. Singh's own past tells us a different story. Born in Hindu family in Haryana, he reportedly converted to Christianity while in prison. How ironic, for a murder case. His website claims he was led astray by, and I quote, evil forces before finding God through the Bible. Today he markets himself as a prophet, offering healing through holy oil and water. But here's the real question: when will we stop falling for such deception? The verdict against Singh is a step in the right direction, but it won't change much unless we as a society change and evolve. These fraudsters exist because we allow them to. It is a wake-up call. It is time to stop putting our faith in Godmen and start believing in ourselves. And that's all I have for you on the show tonight. I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Good night.